started. Those of you who have just come in, make sure that you sign in so that you can get credit for being here. This is the first basic unit of a voice progress program, a progressive voice training program that consists of the several aspects of singing touched on a basic level, touched on an intermediate level, and touched on an advanced level. So that if I've designed this properly, the skills you get today, as you work on them, should make your singing immediately better. And as you become better at it, you should get more confident, and your voice should be freer and work more successfully. And then another year, you come back and you come to the intermediate session, and you feel like you know everything there is to know about singing. And then if I introduce new concepts to you, they should be easy to understand, and they should be compatible with the stuff that you learned the first time around, and just expand your skills to make you more successful. And then the third time you come back, all of those skills should be sufficiently ingrained so that when you add the third level to it, it all sort of fits together like a whole. Yeah, exactly so. So we're going to start off and give it a try. Today, what I want to talk about, as you can see on your piece of information, right up there at the very top, it gives a kind of a definition of what singing is, and it's an elongated speech. Oh, you need one of those sheets right here. Okie doke. And carry this away with you, folks, because this is the kind of stuff that can serve as a reminder for you. Matter of fact, I think probably what I ought to do is to take these sheets and just take them back here to the back and have them laid out in case people come in late. So as you read the definition, you'll see that it's just really elongated speech, but done in such a way so that it gives your voice natural inflection, freedom of projection and pitch change and so forth. And the things that we're going to be talking about are breath suspension, dynamic contrast, placement, singer's threshold, and so forth. Oh, you know what? I got the wrong sheet. That's the intermediate one. I was going to say, no, I'm not talking about that. No, singing is heightened form of speech, which is sustained, projected, and inflected. Does everybody know what I mean by inflected? It goes up and it goes down. Only when we talk, we go up and down in fairly spontaneous kind of ways, and when we sing, we actually go up and down in very specific kind of ways. Sound production is the balanced interplay between an activator, that's the breath, how we use the breath, and so we'll be working on that. A vibrator, that's what happens in your larynx with the vocal folds, and a resonator, and that's the pad, the distance from your vocal folds out to the edges of your mouth, that vocal tract. And when the activator, the vibrator, and the resonator work together efficiently, you can make more beautiful, more easily projected, and more inflected, easily inflected sounds. So that's the goal and objective of all of this stuff. The first thing that I want to do is to talk a little bit about the underlying posture that's required to be a good singer. A good singer's posture, you can see defined there, requires that you stand erect. Generally, it's called the noble posture. You stand erect with your shoulders down and your chest high. You'd be amazed how hard it is for people to find that. They can get this shoulder back military kind of thing. This is the normal pattern for everybody, kind of collapse downward. But otherwise, it gets kind of stiff and rigid, and all of a sudden, it's not very helpful at all. So I have some suggestions on how we can find that. Would you all stand up for a second? What I'd like you to do is require you to use a little bit of your internal balancing senses. I'd like you to close your eyes while I pick your pockets. No, I'd like to have you close your eyes, and I'd like to have you just rock forward on the balls of your feet and back to your heels and backward and forward until you find where gravitational center is, so that you don't feel like you're leaning forward or leaning back. Now that begins already to help. Why is that important? Because when you're not in a gravitationally balanced place, then if you're forward of the center of gravity, there are certain sets of muscles that have to be held in place all the time to keep you from falling over. Those muscles get tired, and you start to get neck aches and back aches, lower back aches, lower leg aches, and things like that. Now just roll back of center. You see what you have to do? There's some muscles that have to flex to keep you from tipping over. And to find gravitational center is really good. Now beyond that, Everybody close your eyes again, and I want you to know, discover where your ears are on your head. Then sense where your shoulder points are, these tops of your shoulders. And see if you can put your ears directly above your shoulders. For some of you, that'll be hard because lots of people are not used to standing in that position. Now, with your eyes closed, you can sense where your ears are, you can sense where your shoulders are. Now sense where your hips are. And gravitationally, put the girdle of your hips directly under the yoke of your shoulders, and then that big melon of a head sits right on top of that yoke. Let's see how you did. I'm just going to scroll around the room a little bit to see. For many of you, you did really, really well. And so that's encouraging that you have a sense of being able to control. Can I get you to come up and be a guinea pig for a second? Okay, this is Andrew. Okay. Andrew, I'm going to get you to try that exercise. First, close your eyes. I want you to stretch your body until your ears are directly over your shoulders. Can you sense that? Let's see. Here's where your shoulders are. Here's where your ears are. So his internal sense isn't quite solving his problem for him. So there are some other alternatives, and I'd like to have you try this with yourselves. I'm going to take the top of Andrew's, the top vertebrae of his neck. You find that with your little finger. And then everybody has a sort of a bump right on the base of their skull. Andrew, I want you to stretch those two parts of your body far apart comfortably. Oh, that changes your posture dramatically, doesn't it? Great. So now you just spend the rest of your life looking at the floor. It's a way to teach people how to be humble. No, actually, that changes the back of your neck a lot, doesn't it? You can feel it stretch, can't you? Indeed, this is called a stretch. But Andrew's still not right in the correct place. So without shortening your neck muscles, Andrew, push back against my hand until your eyes are level. Now you're using neck muscles. Find some other way to get tall. That's your neck muscles. He says, I don't know. I can't get it. Yeah, actually it is. Put your hand behind my head. See, what I'm doing is stretching those two spots apart. See, here's what you're doing, Andrew. You're shortening your neck muscles. You see that? Now, how about this? So what did I do? I changed my torso, didn't I? So actually, the muscles that are going to be activated are in the small of your back. So stretch long. Okay, now push back, but leave your neck long. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Now the problem is that when he's there, if I let go, he falls over backwards. You're not quite where you need to be. Can you go a little farther? Okay, now the next challenge for Andrew is to line up his shoulders over his hips. And you can tell that your hips are far forward of your shoulders, right? It does. You are a little forward. But part of it is just simply that you're not used to being lined up this way. I appreciate you letting me use you as a guinea pig because Andrew has some significant challenges because for years of having had his head forward, his shoulder has made some compensations. And so this gets you just about right. Now let me get you. Okay, now that's about gravitational center. And Andrew says, that doesn't feel like gravitational center. I feel like Frankenstein now. Yeah, you feel really rigid, really awkward. So now the next test, if you'll excuse him, he's going to walk right straight up the aisle here. I want you to walk all the way to the back door and forward again. No, don't shorten your neck. Keep your neck long. That's the hard part for Andrew, is to keep that stretch long and then tall. Okay, now I'm going to get you to walk all the way to the back. At first, you'll feel really stiff and awkward, but I want you to just let your arms swing naturally. And by the time you get back, I hope that you'll feel a little bit more normal. Yeah, it is. But you want to keep your head long and tall over your shoulders. And as he does that, he's going to discover that his head is actually free-floating almost. It doesn't feel like it has to be held. The muscles that are normally gripping him. Stand tall. Find it. The first thing that Andrew would say is, I feel about 1.5 inches taller than normal. Is that true, Andrew? Feel a little taller. Feel a little bit more arrogant. A little more self-assured. Yeah. Yeah, looking down your nose at the rest of the world. It's not as weird when you walk as when you just stand, is it? Absolutely not. Yeah. So this whole procedure, which starts out feeling really uncomfortable and unnatural, really isn't either. It's neither unnatural, and over given time, it won't be uncomfortable. But the heart and soul of it is trying to get your neck long, and head back without shortening your neck. And as soon as you did that, you started using some muscles in the lower part of your back, didn't you? And that's the part where most Americans make the mistake. We spend our lives lounging. Thank you, Andrew. We spend our lives lounging around, and we've got ergonomic chairs and sofas. So you go back 2 or 3 generations and see the kind of chairs that they sat on, and they were straight back chairs, truly. Now, this same thing can be done in another way. The problem is that this room's got a wainscot, so I need somebody with a fanny that's taller than the wainscot. You got a volunteer? Another volunteer? Okay. Come on now, let's see. Chris, I want you to come over against the wall here. This is what I've got written on the piece of paper. Turn your back to the wall. And you want it. There you go. That's right. Now, what I've asked him to do is to put his heels, his fanny, his shoulders, and his neck against the wall. And putting your neck against the wall is the hard thing, isn't it? There's supposed to be a natural curvature between in the lower back. Your lower back shouldn't be touching the wall. Your neck shouldn't be touching the wall. But you're already further back than you normally are. Feel your neck stretch really long, don't you? Okay, step away from the wall. Whoops. Stretch into it. Now step away from the wall. That's right. And the first thing you sense is that you're taller than you usually are. Smarter than you usually are. Okay, so those are several ways that you can go about finding that singer's posture. Why is it important to have that singer's posture? Because if you align your body correctly, it will take the structure of your chest, the thoracic cavity, and it will put it in the right place where it is available for the maximum capacity. Your lungs are inside your thoracic cavity, and if you don't stand properly, then when the lungs go to work, they have to move the weighty bone structures out of the way. But when you're already standing there, breathing can happen very naturally, and you can get maximum breathing capacity when you're in this kind of a posture. The second thing is almost as important, and maybe as important, and that is when you stand long and tall, with your neck stretched long and your head back, there are some muscles that are associated with the suspension of your larynx, your voice box. They attach behind your ear to the base of your skull. And when you stand long and tall, then you get this kind of easy suspension of the larynx in your throat. When you stand collapsed this way, those suspensory muscles are no longer in place and the larynx starts to flop forward on the windpipe. And when that happens, you get a little crimping, and what would normally be an easily produced sound becomes a little bit more complicated. So this singer's posture is primarily to facilitate the opening up of the chambers that have to do with singing. Apart from that, Oh, am I supposed to talk now?
He did that same trick in Alabama about 1982.
It's no good. It gets old.
Did he get the same result then?
Yeah, he gave me that same look. Oh, you smart aleck. Get on with the show. Okay. So when you get those structures set up right, you're in really good shape. That's the first part of a warm-up. So everybody stand in your normal, casual, collapsed selves. Now the first stretch to a warm-up, to a singing warm-up, is to find correct posture. Shoulders down, neck long, head back, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, feet spread slightly apart, one foot slightly in front of the other. That is commonly known as the noble posture or the singing posture. Girls that used to go to finishing school spent hours a day walking around like this with books on their heads to help them find that nice, long, elegant posture. Okay, so that's the first stretch. The second element that I want to talk about has to do with the activators. That's the breathing capacity. Everybody needs to know something about how your breathing works. in the right conditions of breathing, the diaphragm, which is sitting right at the bottom, it's a little dome-shaped muscle that sits right at the bottom of the rib cage and goes from the front of your body clear to the back, from side to side, just divides the thorax from the abdomen. When it sits in this dome position, when it flexes downward, flattens down, it creates more space in the upper part of the chest and air comes in. And that's how we breathe, or that's how we're supposed to breathe. If you go to a new baby ward, a neonatal ward, you will see that little babies do not breathe with their chests. They don't move their chest at all. Instead, the bellows happens right below there. Something happens to all of us when we start to stand erect, and somehow when we become adults, we forget how we used to do it as babies. And it's important to go back and reconstruct that. So the first thing that I want you to do in order to find your diaphragm is to imagine that you have a martini straw, something real small, and I want you to inhale a milkshake. So you really have to tug and pull hard. And as you do that, you should feel some vigorous activity right at the base of your ribs. Do it again. Does anyone not feel that activity? Raise your hand if you don't feel something happening as a result of that. That is the action of your diaphragm while it tries to inhale. And when it goes down, air will come in. When it's time for the air to go back out with some vigor, you need to use a different set of muscles. Those are called the abdominal muscles. They're the ones that gird your body around your abdomen, go from your pubic bone all the way up to the base of your ribs, and they just gird the body. So, that having been said, I want you to find that muscle. And I would like you then to imagine that you were blowing out a candle that's 1.5 feet away from you, or 2 feet away. Go. Do you feel the inward contraction of your abdominal muscles? Okay. So you have two opposing activities. One of them is the inhalation, and so both of those things have to come into some coordination with themselves. Let's play a game called Fat Skinny. You just got out of the shower. There's this full-length mirror right beside you. You look over to the side, and your stomach is not where it should be. What do you do about it?
Suck it in.
And so everybody seems to know. Everybody seems to know what that is. So some of you don't really need that. You know, this exercise is meaningless for some of you. So inhale. Flex your tummy in. Make yourself flat.
Yeah, make myself flat.
Flatter. Yeah. And then allow those muscles to release. And you'll find the whole of the abdominal cavity just falling forward. Then flex and release. Flex and release. Don't relate this to breathing. Just skinny, fat, skinny, fat, skinny, fat. Flex, release, flex, release. The next time you flex, blow. Form an SH. Voice the SH. Z, 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 z. Open to a vowel. Ja, 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 ja. Raise your hand if that activity feels backwards. One person's hand goes up, meaning that when you're flexing, flex, and when I say blow, you say, no, I can't blow because my tummy's going this way. It has to go this way when I blow. Anybody feel like that's backwards? Yeah. There are, in all populations that I've ever met, ranging from about 1/4 to 1/3 of the population that by the time they get to be adults, they have this process backwards. In the class that I had this morning, at least half, maybe 2/3 of the class had their breathing backwards. That creates a real challenge to be able to use your breath successfully to sing. Since breathing is the heart and soul of good singing, if you know how to breathe properly, you can sing properly. It's almost that simple. And for people who have their breathing backwards, they've got either to just sort of limp along or else relearn. And yeah, everybody gets their own choice to be made. But as you look at a new baby, the activity should simply be that when the baby breathes in, his tummy expands, and when he breathes out, his tummy contracts. So it goes. It's just like a bellows, and that is the normal pattern. Okay, along the way, you did something very interesting. First of all, did you all, as you were going through that ja, ja, did you see how much breath you were using? It was in excess of what you normally use, was it not? That is called flow phonation, meaning the breath is flowing to cause the success of the phonation. Phonation is just the vibration of your vocal folds. It's a little more complicated than that. It's air moving through vibrating vocal folds. When the air leaves your lungs, it's just wind. But as it passes through your vocal folds, it changes from aerodynamic energy to acoustical energy. Does everybody understand the difference there? Acoustic energy is sound, aerodynamic is wind. And that's a very interesting thing, and how that occurs is that as the vocal folds, as the breath comes up through the vocal folds and the vocal folds vibrate, they intermittently stop the airflow and then release it in little puffs. And those little puffs make waves, and those waves are translated by our ears as sound. Now, what makes that happen is the really interesting magic. There's a principle called the Bernoulli effect, Bernoulli principle. And it's simply stated is that when air is in motion, it creates low pressure. How many of you flew an airplane to get here? Those of you that flew an airplane were dependent upon the Bernoulli effect, because as the airplane wing is made concave and flat on the bottom, the air molecules below the wing are not interrupted, and the air molecules above are significantly interrupted, and they have to travel faster to get to the back of the wing on time. And as a result of that, they move, they create low pressure, and as they create low pressure, they create suction. And so there is sufficient suction above an airplane wing to lift a 200-ton jet off the tarmac and make it fly. Who would ever thought? So manifest this way, here is a piece of paper that is sort of limp and falling forward. But when I blow across the top of it, it defies gravity because there is low pressure above, and it creates a suction that draws it together. If I put two pieces of paper side by side, and these be representing your vocal folds, without the understanding of the Bernoulli principle, you would understand that when I blow through it, it'd blow the paper apart. But it's just the opposite that happens. Watch. They get drawn together because of the low pressure. But if I do it with enough vigor, they will actually start to vibrate. And that same thing happens in your throat if you set up the right conditions. Most people think that you have to make your vocal folds vibrate. But the truth is you just have to set up the conditions to cause them to vibrate if you get the right amount of air flowing. So we're going to try an experiment. I'll demonstrate it, and then I'll get each of you to try it. I'm going to sigh or whisper on a pitch. Ah, ah, ah. And then gradually I'm going to increase the intensity of the breath energy. In other words, I'm going to speed the air up as it moves through my throat without changing the position of my vocal folds. And you can hear that in the whispering section, it's very, you guys can sit down for a second. You can hear how there's a lot of breath leaking, escaping, and so the tone is breathy. But as the breath velocity increases, there is a greater amount of suction between my vocal folds, and you will gradually hear the vocal folds start to get sucked closed until there's no breathiness left, and there's a clear sound, and instead of a weak sound, there's a very strong, full, rich, resonant sound. Watch how that happens. Ah, ah, ah. Hear it, it's starting to, there's getting to be enough suction, but there's still a little bit of leak. Ah, 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 ah. And now it's full sound. But the position of my vocal folds is the same as it was when I was whispering or sighing. I'd like to have you folks try that. So would you stand, while you're sitting, just take your finger and hold that up in front of your mouth about 2 inches away. It's now a birthday candle. Blow it out. Doesn't take much effort. But you move it out to 4 inches. Now you've got to intensify your breath a little bit, don't you? Move it to 8 inches. And you really have to make the energy. You can feel what your body does to intensify your breath. Move it to 16 inches. And you really have to intensify your breath. So when I say to you, keep that sighing feeling in your throat, but intensify your breath, you now know what I mean. So stand up, if you will, please. Sigh. Okay, now this is at 2 inches. 4 inches. 8 inches. Can you hear that the tone is gradually getting cleaner and clearer around the room? Move it to 16 inches. There you have it. And you didn't change anything in your throat. You just finally got the energy of your breath to arrive at the place where your vocal folds would vibrate spontaneously. That point is what I call the threshold. So on the piece of paper, when you see the word threshold singing, it is that degree of breath energy that triggers your vocal folds into spontaneous vibration instead of having to be forced to be there. Does anybody have any questions about that before I proceed? Does it make sense? Can you feel it in your bodies? Okay, I've got another person that I need somebody to come forward as a volunteer, somebody who hasn't been up before. Come on up. Good. So we're gonna. What is your name?
Sarah.
Okay, Sarah, back up just a little bit. They've got me on a short leash here. So what I want you to do is I want you to first sigh.
Like that.
That's right. Now gradually increase your breath. Move it more. You'll start to turn clear. It's clearer yet. And not only now is it clear, but it's also very resonant. It's got a rich quality to it. Now, that wasn't hard to do, was it? That point where that happens is the threshold below which, and your voice doesn't work efficiently. Either it leaks, you get breathiness, or you hear the breathiness and you don't like it, and so you tighten up the muscles in your throat. And that's what most of you do, is you tighten up the muscles in your throat to make do with insufficient breath flow, and then you get something that sounds like this, like you haven't been to the bathroom for 3 days. It's kind of a constricted sound. So, Sarah, first I want you to find that threshold again. Can you do it? Excellent. Now, I want you to sing, do you know the opening to My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean?
Kind of.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Just that part. We're on threshold.
My body lies over the ocean.
Did you notice that she sort of came in and out of that every note wasn't on threshold? Could you tell that too, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's make every note on the threshold.
My body lies over the ocean.
Let's say that my right hand, represents where threshold is, and my left hand represents where you're actually singing. Can you raise the breath energy to arrive at that threshold?
My body lies over the ocean.
In and out, right? So when you get to bon, it's not there. Can you try it again and see if you can get it there?
My body lies over the ocean.
Okay, now that's kind of normal singing for you, isn't it, Sarah? That kind of the way you normally sing? Or not?
Not quite.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is she's going to sing that same phrase, and I'm going to ask her to sing it her habitual way and then this newer way, and we're going to compare them. So here's your normal way of singing.
My body lies over the ocean.
Now with the heightened breath energy.
My body lies over the ocean.
Can you hear a difference in those two? Can you feel a difference, Sarah?
Yes.
Can you describe what you feel?
It's easier for the throat, and it doesn't hurt as much. And
no pain. Oh, that's good. Yeah. All right, but it's actually more sophisticated from that. I'm going to get you now to sing your habitual way, and I want you to feel vibrations here in your chest, okay? Your habitual way.
My body lies over the ocean.
Now the new way.
My body lies over the ocean.
It wasn't exactly a big difference, but there was a little bit of energy that happened down in your chest when you sang the new way. Am I right? Or was it without? Any vibrations underneath your hand? Either way? Okay, see, she says no. Let's buy that. Now, the next thing is from your chin up through your head. Your old way and then your new way. Just how it feels, okay?
How it feels?
Yeah. This is the old way.
My body lies over the ocean.
Sensation sort of right here in the front of your face, maybe. Now the new way.
My body lies over the ocean.
Except for your posture, that was the same as the old. Can you get your air flowing?
My body lies over the ocean.
Any difference in the vibration patterns?
Yeah, it didn't hurt as much. And also right here, I've noticed usually it really, really hurts me, and this time it didn't.
Okay, so there's a physical release that's going on there. Now, let's talk about the distance between, the vibrations between your chin and your clavicles. In other words, this whole region of your throat. Okay? Old way, new way.
Do I put my hand there?
No.
Okay.
Hold.
My body lies over the ocean.
Now the new way.
My body lies over the ocean.
Any difference?
Yes.
Describe.
It's easier to reach the notes, and it's not really, really tight, and just pushing it to try to get as close as you can to the notes.
Good. Thank you, Sarah, very much. Everybody, you get to try this. So stand tall. Here's the tune we're going to sing. My body lies over the ocean, in your traditional ways. Sing it and attend to whatever vibration patterns you get from your clavicles down into your chest, down into your trachea. Go. My body lies over the ocean. Okay, now the new way, which is threshold level. My body lies over the ocean. Anybody want to comment? Are there differences in the way that part of your body feels when you sing on the threshold? There is more vibration. Because there's a greater freedom, there's also greater vigor of vibration in your vocal folds. And when those vibrations occur, they send frequencies outwards in both directions, both up and out into the world and down your trachea. And when you get those vibrations in your chest, that's a signal that you've got a very vigorous vibration going on in your throat. Okay? Now, from your... Yes, it frees you up, doesn't it? It frees you up. Yes, comment?
Does that make your voice kind of shake sometimes?
I don't know what you mean by shake, as in vibrato shake.
Kind of like that?
It can create a sense of freedom, and vibrato in its best form is an indication that the body is free. Sometimes you can make a vibrato and you make your body shake, and that's what I wanted to double check you about.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't know if that was a normal thing.
If your body gets excessively tense, it'll shake. That's not a good signal. If you release your body, then there will be a nice easy undulation, and that vibrato is an indication of freedom. And the bad vibrato has a kind of a pulse in it, like somebody was beating you on the shoulder. And the other vibrato is somebody like giving you a back rub. It's real, feels good. Okay, so now, here in your throat, your normal way of singing, my, go, ma. Now, with the threshold singing, my body lies over the ocean. Now, collectively, if we were a choir, I would vote for that sound because it's so rich and natural. Did you feel any change in the vibration patterns yourselves? Andrew, what did you say?
Oh, very much so.
Describe it.
I didn't have to strain for lower. It was just more open, more free.
More open, more free. That's kind of what.
To get there.
That's kind of what Sarah was saying too. So that seems to be on the right track. Now, from your chin up into your head, old way, go.
My body lies over the ocean.
Now the new way. My body lies over the ocean. Somebody else, anybody wanting to respond?
I feel vibration just above my...
Right up above your brows. In the new way, there's more activity going on up there. Usually when you sing your old way, it gets kind of constricted and small. I want you to draw with your hands an imaginary line right along your cheekbones. Use both on both sides. Sing your old way and ask yourself, are the vibrations above that line or below that line? Go.
My body lies over the ocean.
My bet is that they feel below that line. Now go on the threshold.
My body lies over the ocean.
Above the line, right? Yeah, so there are ways to distinguish the difference between the old and the new. Here's another line to draw. Right across the front of your face, divide your head from the front to the back. Now ask yourselves, sing your old way, and is the old way in front of that line or behind that line? Go.
My body lies over the ocean.
Most of you, it's behind that line. Now, the threshold way.
My body lies over the ocean.
That was really dramatic. That was, you can feel that puts the energy before and above. So it's in this upper quadrant of the mask of the face. And you've heard good singing teachers teach that when you sing properly, you'll feel vibrations in the mask of the face. Not because we push them there, not because we artificially manufacture them, but when you set up the right conditions, that's what's happened. Go ahead and have a seat for a second. Do you know why it is that we're doing this? Why I'm taking this time not only to describe it, but to get you to get some feedback? I want you to have some keys that you can use to tell when you're doing it the way that you want to do it. If you want to adopt a threshold style of singing, there are some very distinctive sensations that mark it as being different from the old. And it isn't just how you feel, it's how it sounds in the room. I don't know if you had enough concentration left over from checking yourselves to listen to what was going on in the room. But the sounds became really rich and inviting and warm when you sing on that threshold level, and they become somewhat pinched and a little bit strained when you go below that level. Now, if you're calling a dance and you have pinched, strained qualities in your voice, what is that going to communicate to your dancers? All of those things are true. You said stress. They will say, my square dance caller is not happy. I must be, in the way Americans are, it's all my fault. I'm doing something wrong, and the square dancer's mad, the caller's mad at me, and you get this anxiety. Or you get this strain in your voice, like you use that voice like, clean up your room, put your clothes away, do your homework.
The other right.
Yeah, and that's that's right, and that's not the way that you want your dancers to feel. It's like, yes, sir, I'm going to go do what you say, or they're going to beat me up. Instead, you want them to say, I feel encouraged, I feel secure, my caller is secure. He projects a sense in her or his voice of ease, and even though the choreography is hard, his voice or her voice says, you can do it, not with so many words, but by the quality of the voice, and it sets up an environment that's very inviting when you do that. So thus far, in our conversation, we've talked about correct posture. It's hard to get threshold singing if you don't have correct posture. We've talked a little bit about the ins and outs of your breathing, and the ins and outs of your breathing are very important. You need to have your diaphragm stretch to fill with air, and you need the abdominal muscles to be active, as you felt them to be when I asked you to intensify your breath. And so if you're overly passive in your lower abdomen, you will not find it easy to reach that threshold. If you're active with your breath, it's not hard to find threshold singing at all. Okay, so now the next thing that I want to talk to you about, how are we doing on time? I'm actually hurrying because last time, so how much? I got about 40 minutes. Do we go till 5? Yes. In the morning session, we were dallying around with threshold singing and didn't get to the last unit. So we're getting on to the last unit, you guys. All right. Okay, now the last unit says once you got this raw sound coming out of your throat, which, by the way, is already better than it was before. It's already richer. It's already more resonant. It's already more inviting. That really is a great improvement. If you were to stop right there, you could be very happy. But then to really make singing work, you also need to attune the resonator. The resonator is the vocal tract. It's about a 7.5-inch tube that starts at the top of the vocal folds and continues all the way up until it gets to your lips, to the tip of your lips. And that tube is flexible, and so it can be moved around a little bit in order to change its shape and size. Not entirely, but a little bit. And as a matter of fact, you have to change the tube in order for you to change vowels. When you say an E vowel, the vibration pattern is different than when you say an O vowel. Or else we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between E and O. And that's essential to our ability to distinguish all 5 of the cardinal vowels and all of the subsets of those vowels. That's an essential element of being able to communicate with each other. And so in a very subtle way, we know how to change our resonance tube to change those patterns to produce E's, O's, A's, A's, and all of those subsets between the neutral vowels and so forth. So the trick is to learn how to tune that. I need a couple of volunteers. Can I get somebody to hold the microphone because I need both hands, and then somebody else to serve. Okay, thanks. Come on up. Okay, who's the microphone holder? Okay. Wow. All right. So, come on.
Oh.
We are going to create a larynx, voice box.
You want it
Sorry.
out?
I didn't get enough lunch. Would you get a little closer? I just. So.
Are you typing it?
I'm not typing it.
Typing.
Taping it. Oh.
Are you typing?
He's typing it. He needs the mic.
I just had to change modes. I know what you were saying. No,
Are you making fun of the way I talk?
I'm not making fun. I'm not.
Where are you from? I can tell.
I'm from out west.
I can tell.
But you know what? I've been living in Texas for 13 years, and I just had to change gears.
Show.
Not anymore, because I don't make it show. But you'll be surprised. You know, I get out to school, and I'll start talking to somebody from the South, and I'll just sort of slip, and they'll go, "Where are you from?" I'd say, "From Fort Worth, Texas." And that's where I was from for a while. Anyhow, we're going to create a larynx. Voice. This is the voice box. You all can find your voice box by reaching on your throat. Find your Adam's apple. I got it for a minute. You find it? You got your Adam's apple? And there's some sort of hard cartilage that expands out from the Adam's apple and goes down about 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So there's a voice box that's about, 1 inch or 1.5 inches wide and about 2 inches tall. And that's the larynx. The larynx is made up of a series of cartilages, and we're not going to talk about all of them. We're going to just talk about the biggest one, the thyroid cartilage. The thyroid cartilage is the one where you feel your Adam's apple. And you can feel about the size. Now I'm going to blow that thing up so that we're now standing on the inside of that Adam's apple. And the front of the cartilage is right about here, and the cartilage is right back here where the table is. Standing between us here are the vocal folds. And between us, there's this slit in the vocal folds called the glottis. That's the place where the air comes through. And when the vocal folds vibrate, we get this kind of, yeah, okay, so that we know where we are. All right, so within the vocal folds, within the it's called the laryngopharynx, the larynx, there is a wall that starts right about here, and it goes up about 8 feet, and it comes in a big U shape, and it comes around till it reaches behind us, and so it's tall. So now we're standing in an echo chamber, kind of, and the sound that comes out of here starts bouncing off of these walls. It goes up to about 8 or 9 feet, and then for about 2 or 3 feet, there's a space. And in that space, it's not hollow, so the air can't leak out, the sound can't leak out, but it's membrane. In other words, it's softer stuff. It's flexible stuff. It's not hard like bone or like cartilage. And then above that, at 3 feet above the end of that, is a big U-shaped bone called the hyoid bone. And it's the hyoid bone that suspends the whole larynx in the throat. Now, starting right about, 7 or 8 feet above us, just above eye level, and going up about 12 or 14 feet is another cartilage. And it looks like a shoehorn. It's big, it's narrow, and it's tall, and it's concave. And it sits up right in front of us. Okay? So as the sounds come out here and vibrate, the first thing that happens, you got it, they go up and they hit on that cartilage, and it reflects that sound up into the back of your throat. The other thing and this epiglottis thing that I was talking about, when you swallow, it's the thing that comes down like this and closes it so you don't get water or food down the wrong pipe. Okay, but it serves both to protect the throat from when you're swallowing, but it also serves as a very important reflector to get the sound out into the world. If the epiglottis, while you're singing, if the epiglottis kind of tips closed, it'll kill whatever energy is happening down here, and it will make your voice not project well. So you want that epiglottis standing up straight and tall to reflect the sound out. The other thing is that embedded in these membranes that go all the way around the top here, this 3-foot round, are some muscles. And those muscles are swallowing muscles. And so when you swallow, it takes the whole larynx, the hyoid bone stays put kind of, it takes the whole larynx and it brings it up and shrinks that space. And when that happens, that also kills the vibration pattern in the throat. You can feel that happen. Just find your Adam's apple again. And right above your Adam's apple, there's a kind of little indentation there. That's where that membrane is. And if you go up just a little bit more where the indentation starts to disappear and expand back out again, that's where the hyoid bone is. And so if you'll just leave your fingers in that little indentation and swallow, you'll feel that the whole larynx goes up and that space gets squeezed. And it's to compress the larynx so that when you swallow, food doesn't get caught on the back end of the larynx before it goes down your throat. So the things that will kill resonance are the epiglottis swinging closed or that swallowing muscle working. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
That was easy.
Yeah. You'll be back. So right now, I'm not paying any attention at all to that space. It's neither open nor closed, and you can hear my voice okay. But now I'm really starting to make sure that the epiglottis is standing straight up and that space is opened up. Can you hear the quality of my voice changing? Becoming more clean, more clear, and that's very purposeful. So if I sing, "My Bonnie lies over the ocean," it's okay. But if I go, "My Bonnie lies over the ocean," I didn't change the energy of my singing at all. I didn't move my breath harder. I didn't press my voice at all, but it changed the quality, didn't it? And I'd like to have you guys experience what that feels like, starting right over here. No. As a matter of fact, come on up here and join in a circle. Everybody's going to get to do that. No. You guys came on purpose because I didn't get to this in the early section. And I want you girls to be sure you get to have it. Come on, Marianne.
Don't make us beg you. You know you want us to.
Came back for this. You guys doesn't rush that fast.
She thought she had longer to chill out. All right, so the first thing that you want to do, I have some hand signals that I use to remind myself about it. And one of them is this. Usually that's an Italian signal that's kind of rude. But it's just the idea that the epiglottis just stands straight up and it doesn't tip down. Now, what causes it to tip down? If your tongue gets drawn back in your throat, it'll close that thing down. If you go to swallow, it'll close down automatically. So the main culprit is that you start to sing, and then all of a sudden, swallowing muscles kind of close the space off. So it's quite the opposite. The whole larynx just sort of sits down. You can see by the use of my hands that I'm creating a gesture that makes downward and outward, and that the epiglottis stands straight up. So can you sing "My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean" and just sing it your normal way?
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now, conceptually, think about your epiglottis standing straight up, and you relax right in here.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
That was pretty dramatic. So you guys are going to have to rotate because I don't have a long cord. Same thing here, Lottie.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Okay, just your normal way one more time.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Okay, now try to get that epiglottis to just sort of stand straight up, kind of like that. Go.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
You notice when you got to bon, the high note, that it didn't want to do that. It wanted to squeeze down. Mm-hmm. This time just leave it alone all the way through. Go.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Good. Rotate. Go ahead.
Okay, normal first.
Normal.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now you're going to let that thing stand straight up and tall and be open and clear. Go.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Can you do it again? My
Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Good, Sarah. Come on around, Justin. Normal way.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Okay, now stand it up straight, open and spacious.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
You should have been able to feel the difference on that. Could you?
Yeah.
Good man. Okay, next round. There. There. Why am I surprised?
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
That's a very, very excellent bad example. Thank you very much. No, that was, in terms of this thing that we're talking about, he had not any effort to kind of keep that wide open. And as a result, it was warm and friendly and a little bit diffused. Now watch what happens. You're going to let that larynx just sort of stand straight up in your throat and be wide open.
I can just sing about my throat. My body lies over the ocean.
Work with me just a little bit and say, my body. That's it. My body.
My body lies over the ocean.
That's excellent. Thank you, Bear. I don't know if you knew what you were doing, but you just kind of.
I'm thinking about what my throat's doing.
Yeah. Okay, normal. Okay, Ron.
My body lies over the ocean.
Another excellent bad example. Thank you very much. What I mean by that is that there's just no attention to that element at all. And for most folks that are square dance callers, and even for most singers, this thing that I'm showing you isn't really part of the vocabulary. This is actually kind of fun. I ran into this way of describing resonance not very long ago, maybe just 4, 5, 6 months ago. I'd heard about it 2 or 3 years ago. It's actually a physical law called refraction. It has to do with the way light beams work and the way sound beams work, sound waves. So I started putting 2 and 2 together, and that's where we're going. This is only halfway around. We're going to go around this circle one more time, folks, before we're done. Okay, so normal.
My body lies over the ocean.
Thanks, Ron. Now, think about that sound right here. Imitate this quality instead of this kind of quality.
My body lies over the ocean.
Good. Do it again.
My body lies over the ocean.
The first thing you got to say is, are you sure that's okay? Because all Ron can say is that that's different than what you're used to. Isn't that true, Ron?
Different, yes.
Can you describe how it's different?
No.
Thanks. Well, next. Actually, what happens is that for many people, they get a sense of identity by having that small space. That space that's associated with swallowing. And you just kind of close it down and you sing small. And when you let that thing open up, it makes a sound that's more present, more aggressive, more attractive, more. It seems that way, doesn't it? Even though you don't know a thing what you're doing, it gives the impression of confidence. You're so smart.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Very good. Another of those outstanding.
Thank you.
Stretch. And just think in terms of this right here in your throat, just being that way.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
You should have been able to feel the difference of change in that, could you?
I could feel the difference, but I couldn't tell you what the hell it was.
Well, it was clearer. Wasn't as diffused. Would you describe, as I'm trying to describe it, would those match what your perception is?
Yeah, but I'm not really sure what I did to make the difference. So,
in essence,
I'm having trouble visualizing this thing coming up.
It's just open, that, rather than close down like that. That, it's open, okay? So thanks. Okay, John.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now try to get that more spacious, open position.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
That's a very good example. Could you hear the change? Could you feel the change? Mm-hmm. Good. Come on around. Marianne.
Pick on me so much.
You're so fun.
Yeah.
Plus, I can't do this without laughing. Onto the next. Just going up there. What are we singing? My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now, Marianne actually starts with that. That's a natural position for her. That open larynx is already there for her. So she does. This is something that she doesn't have to adjust for. And there are some folks that just do that. Do it one more time so they can all be jealous.
Am I? Yeah. Yeah. I know.
No, he doesn't.
No, he didn't.
Get out of here.
Let's see. I'll do it again. My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Good. Now, Marianne didn't know that she was doing that, right? Something about her speech patterns just sort of set her up to do that. I think it was her school teaching experience. She had to, because this quality that I'm trying to coax out of you is called primal sound. It's the kind of sound that babies make when they're very first born. Every mother knows that you cannot resist a baby crying when it's newly born. So it's like, I'm too tired, oh, all right, I'll come. And there's just something that, and another nice thing about a baby's cry is that a baby, when they're first born, they never, ever lose their voice. If only they would, you know. They never lose their voice. They can cry for 4 hours and they still are as fresh as when they started because they are acoustically tuned. They have not learned to do things unnaturally. And so this primal quality starts right here in the laryngopharynx. It's wide open. If you ever watch a baby cry, watch them the next time. Watch what they do. Watch what they breathe like. Look down their throat, and you'll see their tongue. They're just very natural. And we all come pre-programmed to do that right, and then we screw it up when we become adults. Except for Marianne.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Okay, now open that place up. My Bon.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Good. You're already getting a step ahead of the game, but that's all right. Come on around, Bob.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now try to stretch that thing out. You can sing a little higher if you'd like to.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Yeah, everything was fine until you got to the last syllable of ocean.
Yeah, and then we're down.
And then it just disappeared.
Yep.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Ocean. You can hear how it can be tuned. Try it again.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Ocean.
Yeah, I know.
So what's happening is, as Bob goes to that lower note, he's allowing this spaciousness that he created before to get closed off. And as it gets closed off, then it kills the natural resonance and it makes it hard to make the note. So you want to stay open. Go again.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Just take shun.
Shun.
Sha.
Shun.
That's not bad. Timid, but not bad.
That's the way I am.
Okay.
My body lies over the ocean.
What is it with everybody that wants to do this at the bottom of the voice? I can understand that from you ladies, because you spend your lives in square dance calling at the bottom of your voices. Kick it up a little higher in pitch.
My body lies over.
My Bonnie.
My
body
lies over the ocean.
Okay, now tune that out. Now tune it up now.
My body lies over the ocean.
One more time.
My body lies over the ocean.
Think we're standing inside of this big cavern, and that epiglottis is tipped about this far down. Kick it right straight back up. Keep it wide open.
My body lies over the ocean.
I didn't succeed.
No, not at all.
But we will. Come on, Galen. Because this is only half of the topic. We got another half to go around. Everybody gets a second turn.
Okay. My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Galen, you don't have any problem with that. That's pretty naturally in place in your voice, that element.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
You got it.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Till the very end of the last syllable. So don't let that happen. Don't let it collapse.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Got it. Okay, at least on some level, most of you understand what that means, right? You maybe don't understand, but you got through it. But my hope is that on some level you understand that this space right in here in your throat, whether you understand the actual biomechanics or not, if you keep that space open, there, you get a different sound than if you let it collapse and get this way. This may sound friendly. This may sound non-aggressive. And this may sound a little bossy. But the truth is, you want to be a caller that calls like this? No. I hope that you guys, you cannot. No. But the truth is, if you have this quality of a voice and you say, everybody form a star, okay, please. Oh, if you don't want to, never mind. It gives that sense. But if you say, ladies form a star, they'll say, ooh, yeah, okay, and away I go. Because there's a certain clarity to it, okay? But that's only half the topic. The laryngopharynx is the first part of this stuff that I'm calling refracted resonance. Refracted resonance says that when a sound is produced in a small chamber, the laryngopharynx, and then it leaves a small chamber and goes into a larger chamber that is at least 6 times bigger than itself, that it will create an augmentation of sound. It will create a big ringing quality in the voice. So that can happen, actually, in the human voice. The laryngopharynx, for you ladies, except for Sarah, is about the size of the tip of my finger. About like that. For Sarah, it's about that size. It's a little bit smaller. For the men that are here in the room, it's about the size of the tip of your thumb. Now, if you can take the back of your throat, and shape it in such a way so that you could get 6 of those things in there, guys, or 6 of those things, gals, then you'll get a remarkable acoustical occurrence. Listen to it happen. Here it is without. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Here it is with. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. And I didn't sing any louder the second time, but it sounded louder, didn't it? It sounded more resonant, sounded more commanding. And now I've got that element in my voice, my speaking voice now, and now I'm taking it out. It's not in there right now, and then it's back in again. And it's just an acoustical balancing and tuning. And the reality is that when you let your soft palate, that's the fleshy part at the back of your mouth, let it fall down, and you let your tongue loll back in your throat, you get this kind of sound, where you get the raw sound coming out of your voice box, but it gets no enhancement through the resonance tube. As a matter of fact, it actually gets dampened down a little bit. But if you get the tongue forward in the back of the mouth, the lift in the roof of your mouth, and your larynx in a comfortably relaxed position, you get a very kind of rich, mellow quality that could sound phony. But once you get used to it, that's just the way you talk. And it's very interesting. If you listen on the radio to professional singers, so-and-so is going to come on the microphone and talk to you. Yes, George, I would like to say a few things about that. And you say, oh, come on, don't give me a concert while you're talking. But the truth of the matter is that that's how they talk. They just have learned how to make their voices resonant. And so this refracted resonance, where you take a small chamber, small here, large here, if you get this 6 times bigger than that, you'll get that ring in it, and you don't have to make it louder. What happens to lots of singers is that they let this space get small. They know their voice is supposed to be commanding, and so then they push on their voice to make it louder, and as they push on their voice, there's some strain that comes into it that has nothing to do with what you want to say at all. It sounds pushy. You let go of it, and it doesn't have to sound pushy. It needs to sound inviting, but this actually carries better than this does, whether it's on a microphone or whether it's without a microphone. Okay, so that's the thing that I want you to experiment with. Okay, Patty. So, can you think small, this size here in your throat, and 6 times bigger than that, and sing My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean?
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Bingo. That wasn't that hard, was it?
It's big.
It's what?
It's easy to say big.
Hey, it actually has nothing to do with big. It has to do with big here. But as that happened, you could feel that happen. And this one, when you get these 2 elements together, the laryngopharynx, trying to get that open, that'd maybe be a little bit mysterious. But you get this, and there is a very distinctive feeling with it, isn't there, Patty? Just as distinctive as the sound of it is the distinction of the feel of it. And I want each one of you to feel it.
I don't feel it.
Well, that's because you haven't done it yet.
show me how.
Okay. Well, the first thing is that you can't get this refraction with a southern accent.
Well.
Well, you know. Actually, you can just fine. Okay, so.
Can we change the song?
Sure. What song do you want to sing?
No, I'm just playing.
But we can.
No.
What would you like to sing?
Can we go on with the song?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
How does the rest of it go?
Okay, so right in here, you got this thing about that size there,
Okay.
and something 6 times bigger than that behind your tongue.
My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Already C was way different than you normally do it, was it not? Sometimes. Okay, but I wasn't too thrilled with Bon. So you get another chance.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
She has that pattern in every place except my Bon. Because it's a high note, there's this tendency for this whole space to kind of squeeze together and push. Keep it just the opposite way. Good way for y'all to remember this is to think in terms of the inside of the roof of your mouth being like the dome of a cathedral, not like a flat ceiling like we have here. So this time as you sing, think, my Bonnie lies over.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. I feel like I'm singing in my throat, though, and not out of my abdomen.
No, you're actually doing really well. But
really?
C got lost. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, Sarah. Now, it's about this size here, and about this 6 times bigger than that. Go.
My Bonnie, whoops, no, sorry, that was completely wrong.
My
Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Good.
My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Good, thank you. Very nicely done. Okay, Justin, you can if you want. I don't feel possessed.
My Bonnie lies.
Hang on, what are you doing? Space, dome, go.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
It went away on ocean. Could you feel it? Can you go there? My Bon.
My Bon.
Bon.
My Bon.
That sounds like he thinks about what most boys think about his age. The word is Bonnie, not bunny.
It's Bunny for me.
Yeah. That's not Bonnie.
Bon.
Yeah.
Okay. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Got it. Good. Thanks. Okay, Bear. Space.
Big.
This is kind of like a dome. It's like almost the beginning of a yawn.
My body lies over the ocean. My body lies over the sea.
Okay, you got it. Could you feel that happen? Yeah. It's once you get the acoustics, once you get it lined up right, it's actually very easy to self-monitor.
My body lies over the ocean.
Got it.
My body lies over the sea.
Everything was fine until on the very first word on my, you didn't have it. It's like he's got a flat ceiling when he sings, my Bonnie lies. So, you get to try again.
My body lies over the ocean. My body lies over the sea.
Thank you. Now, what happens is that you get along doing this, and in some respects, it just feels different than what you're used to doing. Right? I'm waiting for some response like, yeah, and? Oh, sure, whatever you say. But you have to have a sense of understanding and possession of the notion that says, I can see how to do that, and I like the concept. But along the way, some of the vowels that I sing, I have to form differently than I'd normally form them, because if I form them the way I habitually form them, I kill that 6-to-1 ratio. The sixth space gets shrunk below where it's 6 times bigger than my laryngopharynx. So that you allow yourself to start from the assumption that you're going to keep the spaciousness, and then you do whatever you got to do to say the words in such a way to hold on to that position. There, you did that. You were doing things that were a little different than what you normally do, but once you got on the roll, you just kept right on going. Oh, we have that problem.
I want to kill the instructor. Yeah.
Yeah.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Every one of those was good except for the very first word of each phrase, my. Was it my my? Can you go there?
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Now talk about how that feels different than normal. What's different about it?
Well, the back of my throat does feel more open than I stretch, more than I feel when I'm just speaking.
And that, what, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
Barry.
Barry.
Like bear with a Y.
Yeah. That's bear and that's barely. Oh, Barry. Oh, sorry.
I'm not going to go there, Bear.
A good way to, the word that Barry used, I think, is worth remembering, and that is all of your vowels feel stretched inside. They're not collapsed, but there's a sense of stretch all the way through the whole of it. And that might be a good way to help remember. Thanks. Okay, John.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
There's a southern accent.
My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Everything was fine except for the first note.
Okay.
And C.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Now that time you got C just right, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it was a little different before.
Yeah.
And so there is a little bit of trial and error with all of you to get it. All right.
It's like that first note sometimes. You're sort of testing the water to see what's going to come
out before you
ain't always sure what's going to happen.
I know. You're like the little prissy lady that goes up to the swimming pool, goes, and then goes jumping on in.
Don't look at him.
I just knowing he's there.
Anybody laugh?
Oh, I might kill off the mice, so forget about
you're
it.
looking for space.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
How long has it been since you've been to a cathedral?
Have a little church.
Little church.
My. See, turn him around. I guess. Yeah. So just so you know, I messed up the first part. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Good. Now, was there anything unusual about that? Yeah, she made it all the way through without laughing. But was there something that was different about it? Did you feel any different inside, Marianne?
I'm not going to sing that high.
You did fine. There was no problem with high-low. It didn't make any difference at all. That was well done.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
I just have one word to say.
What's that? Is that the chicken dance? That's that. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Yes.
That was good. That was really good.
Oh, good.
I was just saluting.
Completely different.
I was just saluting to say, yes, ma'am.
It's focus is what it is.
Yeah. You got another phrase to sing.
Oh. My Bonnie. Oh, that's not it.
It is.
That's the second. Oh, it lies over the sea. Okay. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
I'm particularly interested in pointing out to you, those of you that have been successful, when you get to the word sea, it feels different than what you normally sing. Because when you keep that space open behind, you have to form the E vowel in a different kind of a way that's actually much more useful, but it's just different than what you're used to. And all I got to say is get over the old and get used to the new.
Oh, dang, we're running out of time. My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now, hang on a second. When's the last time you went to church? The cathedral.
He goes to my church.
Last time I went to church, the Brookville Inn.
Yeah, but it's got to be big, tall, dome.
Okay. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Now, I'm going to get you to stay here just for a sec.
Oh God.
There are three things that help open up that space in the back of the throat. One of them is the soft palate. The other one is the larynx that just stays comfortably low. And the other one is the tongue that stays forward. And you have trouble with all three.
Help me. No.
Now, I'm got to think for a second. Would you take yourself a surprise breath? When you do that, everybody, you can feel the roof of your mouth rise, the base of your tongue go down, and your tongue move out of the way. Try. Take a surprise breath. Not an exhalation, but a surprise inhalation. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Now, hold that position and then sing through it.
My Bonnie lies over.
Went away.
Went away.
My Bon, my Bon.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Good. Now, the word sea feels different than what you normally sing, doesn't it? Yeah. Get used to it.
I'll try.
Okay.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Good.
My Bonnie lies over the sea.
The sea is very good, but Bonnie doesn't feel very comfortable yet, does it?
No.
So, my Bon.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Bon.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Now, one of the things that, it's Lottie. One of the things that Lottie gets nervous about is that when she goes up singing higher, there's this sense of something needs to get small. Why does it get small? It does, doesn't it? It feels like it gets small. Those are swallowing muscles. And why does it get small? Because you make it small and then you add breath pressure behind it and you can kind of push it almost any place you want to. Problem is that when you push it anywhere you want to, you get tired. Your voice gets tired. This other way, you can sing for a long time without weariness.
A quick question or comment. Lottie's like a lot of women callers who lower their voice as a square dance caller because the higher ranges, the guys lose.
Yeah. That's what they say.
So don't do that.
That's what they say. And I'm one of those that just simply doesn't buy that. I think that there are some things that women do when they get in their high voices that make their voices shrill. But if you can learn to get into your high voice without that shrillness, the upper part of a woman's voice is very commanding, very strong, very powerful, and just part of the cultural evolution that's going on in square dancing as more and more women become involved. You will start to see within a generation that women will be singing in their own ranges very successfully without having to be quasi-men to be able to do it. And then their voices will take on their own natural luster, and that will be a liberation for you and all of the ladies that come after you. But not done yet, because that word bon vibrates in a weird place. So what I want you to do is to sing my Bonnie, and I want you to elongate that vowel long enough so that your body can get used to what it feels like. Because what Lottie's dealing with is that it feels different than usual, and so it makes her wonder on some subconscious level if she has just made a mistake. When in fact it's not a mistake, it's an improvement, it's just different than what she's accustomed to. So elongate the bone.
My Bonnie lies on.
You see it? It took her about a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds to trust that she had done that correctly. All she could say was it was different than what she was used to. So here you go one more time.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now in real speed.
My Bonnie lies over the sea.
And that time she didn't hesitate at all because she'd been there and wasn't startled by it. Okay, Galen.
I have to sing 5 days a week.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Can you stretch your vowels more?
Yeah. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
You do better once you get going, don't you? Yeah. But the first 2 notes kind of buffalo you, so you get to do it again.
Good.
So you go, my Bonnie lies over, my Bonnie.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
That's right. And the reason that Galen was a little hesitant to begin with is because Bonnie comes out so quick and goes by so fast that he doesn't know whether he's got it or doesn't, so he's a little hesitant. But you did get it, and it came out fine. It just feels different than normal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's better than normal.
Better?
Yeah, it's paranormal. Good.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Nicely done. Now stand up with your good posture.
I don't know how to do the standing thing.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. You know how hard it is to sing while someone's playing with their head?
What I'm doing is I'm taking away from him some of the crutches that he's been used to using to sing. Now go ahead.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Not to mention that I started that way too high.
But you know what? Your resonances were really good. But you could feel almost every note there was a tug there that your muscles wanted to be in a different place than where I wanted them to be. But I won. Thanks, Andrew.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Chris, C sounds great. Does it feel different than normal? But my doesn't sound good. Part of it is because it's low and nobody really has to concentrate about low notes. Most folks just kind of throw those away and they worry about the high notes. But I'd like to have you worry about the low note as well. My
Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Great. Thanks very much. Okay, everybody, you don't get to sit down yet.
Wait, we have one for you. My Arden teaches us to sing. My Arden still scares me.
You know, I can't believe that. No, who could be afraid of me? Truly, I'm just a silly guy. But the truth is that they're just physical principles. But thank you for that parody. I'll get even with you yet. Now, the next thing I'd like to just do is give you how are we doing on time?
1 minute. Time to go.
Okay, so we'll double check to make sure everybody does sign in. Okay, so what I want you to do is, hello. She was in the earlier session. The session, she didn't get to do this. No?
My Bonnie lies over the ocean.
Now, that's a nice resonant low note. But now get the back.
Sean.
Thank you. Now the whole thing.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies...
Chicken, just go ahead and... My Bonnie.
My Bonnie lies over the sea. Sea.
It's tall, and it's got to stay tall inside.
Over the sea. No, it's still...
Close. Try again.
Over the sea.
You start with the space, and then you figure out how to say the words afterwards.
Over the sea.
That's right. Now put that in the phrase.
My Bonnie lies over the sea. No, Jesus, I want to go like this.
You do. It's real habitual, but you don't get off the hook until you get it right.
My Bonnie lies over the sea.
Good. All right. You thought you were just going to get away. This is an exercise that I'd like to offer to you as a way to make sure that you're warmed up. When you go into a dance, you all know what it feels like to have no place to get warmed up. The automobile is not the right place to warm up as you're going in. It's a completely different acoustical environment, and it doesn't do you any good to warm up in the car. Instead, when you arrive at that place and have got your equipment set up, there are three stretches that I want you to do. We've already done 2 of the 3 already in our class. One of them is you stretch your posture. You get your head back, your neck long. It's the neck long that's the big deal, so that you can feel that stretch across your neck. The second one is to take a stretching breath, so that you breathe until you can feel the ligaments between your ribs start to stretch. And in that position, forming a W, I'll show you how to do it. So you start at the bottom, and you glide from the bottom of your voice all the way to the top. Join me. First, stretch your posture, stretch your breath. In that suspended breath, go. And you'll notice that about halfway up, you have a tendency to go, and all of a sudden your breathing changes from that stretched place to a compressed place. You've got to keep in that stretched place so that the ligament in your vocal folds can actually be stretched out and not driven out. No runner who's going to spend any time running would ever go out and run without stretching out. And this is a stretch that all singers ought to do every time they sing. So stretch your neck, stretch your breath, stretch your vocal ligament. And you do that 3 or 4 or 5 times, and your voice will have touched every note you're going to sing all night long, and will have touched it in the approach that will help your voice to be the most healthy. Are there any questions that anybody wants to ask before we close up now?
Just make sure the stall's empty when you do that in the bathroom.
It gives new meaning to stalling around, doesn't it? Are there any other questions that anybody wants to ask? Then thank you very much for a very successful session.